Yeah. All right. We're going to give it a couple of minutes. Let me monitor it. Oh, man. Yeah, I just talked to another brother. It was cool, man. Today's Brother Day.
Yeah, actually, I in the studio here, I watched that.
Yeah, he's a cool dude, man. He's the real deal. What am I trying to do here? Oops. Boom. There it is. It's coming on. It's coming online. Let's see. All right. We got Allison says wizard time.
Uh-oh.
I'd say you fit the mold for that. Let's see if I can pull up. Yeah, I can only see the comments on
Facebook.
On my page, yeah, which is fine. Yeah, that's cool. So, man, I guess let's just jump right into it, man. Like, November 7th, November 2017.
Okay.
My friend Amanda Lawrence, we were doing shows in 2017, 2018. And I remember 2017, she was like, anytime she'd gotten the intel that anytime you see twos and ones, in the date, they're power days. And we just went through 3 days in a row. And of course, we got plenty of those coming up, the next month or into February. But man, looking at the 10th, 11th, and 12th, based on a couple of sessions Morgan and I did, both of them we put up. The one I think it's even more relevant was the one I put up last night, which was from 2 days ago, where we went into the new Earth grid. Patricia Cota Robles, Sandra Walter, Jason Estes, Franco's stuff. I mean, everything pointing, and really even more than that, the comments and the posts that people are putting up over this period. The emphasis on the body, this awareness that Taino was talking about. I don't know, man. I am 100% that something ended and something begun. And we're in it. We're in the thick of it. And it feels amazing. But I don't know. I know you've got your hands in quite a few different, you got a lot of tools in your tool belt. But like, what's your take on where we're at right now?
Well, I definitely want to go back to the 2 and the 1.
Oh yeah.
And that's binary.
Okay.
The 2 is the 0.
Okay.
And the 1. So everything organizes in the binary. And what we're seeing with this last new moon in Libra is we are seeing the accumulation of the cycles that we've gone through, such as the Saturn and Pluto conjunction that was in a cardinal sign of Capricorn. And so now we have this 90-degree angle that we're recovering and starting new beginnings from. So the clearing of the karmatic cycle that we've went through in late 2019 and all of 2020. And then in 2021, we began this new humanitarian cycle. And the cardinal energy, or Libra, and this new moon we just had cleared the obstacles around relationships, and it cleared out all kinds of energy. And the dark moon phase of that right before this new moon was very, very intense. And it's kind of like, now if you cannot hold your space, there's no hiding it, there's no going around it. And if your energy is available to be magnetic, then it's available to be magnetic. If it's not, then people are still living in the wobble of this old paradigm and old cycle. So it has been quite fascinating.
So is the old cycle? He said something on that last show. He said you can't hear the body if you're focused on the trauma. Is the old cycle the trauma?
Yeah, the old cycle is charge itself. Like Franco talks about the upside down matrix and the organic matrix. And the organic matrix is the one that we live parallel with in nature. And it's kind of like if you are still investing in things and expecting return and giving to receive and that whole paradigm, then you're living in the wobble itself. And when you are concerned about things, you abandon the self.
Yeah.
And
That giving and receiving thing, right? Like, God, how did that start? But there was this conjunction, right? It was 2.5, 3 weeks ago. It was like Mars, the moon, sun, 2 or 3, 4 other celestial bodies. Julie Dara Roberts had come on, I think, a couple of days before. We put a picture of it up, and she's like you. She's got some real high degree of specificity on the stuff that she knows. And then that would have been 2 weeks ago. This past Monday, I come down with whatever it was. The same day Franco comes down with what he's still continuing with. And many other people now, since I've talked to him that week, went through some physical symptoms that were, how do I say this, that were the same as, let's say, COVID. Some or all of those symptoms, right? Now, when I was in Sedona and Franco stayed with me after Soulogy Fest, we had a personal discussion together with Kimberly for about 2-3 hours. The first night he stayed in the condo. And I asked him some questions that I've never asked him on camera. And it revolved around his physical vessels, challenges and human realities. And I asked him some questions about it, and I won't get into that. But the next morning I went to the store. I walked across the street to the grocery store. I came back and I got this big download. And I was being shown, and Franco was the focal point. So it was showing me Franco like you see him on screen when he's doing advancing consciousness. And it was showing me the transmission, the sending out of his signal, his code, and how it was in service and, in aligned, unconditional love, pure intention, and so on. But what I was being shown is that the audience or the receivers were in the quantum field looking at him, and they were no longer judging. They weren't going like, oh, who does he think he is? Or what, things like that. It was all being received in equilibrium as it was being sent, and vice versa. So then fast forward to 2 weeks ago, as I'm going through my thing in my own way, and I was being shown, and I won't go through the details because I've talked about it, I was equalizing each energetic face of what I was contending with. And basically equilibrium was brought to the table. Then I find out a few days later that he's human terms, ill, very ill. And I've talked about this, so I'll just mention it. So he because of his pre-existing compromised immunity, he obviously is having a tough time with this. So he had said, I don't know if I want to be here. And I said, okay, cool. That's cool. Respect everybody's will and choices. But then I was moved to, and this was through co-creation, collaboration. It wasn't like conscious, let's do something. It wasn't like that. It was just flow. So I ended up having this lucid dream. He actually came here. That's how it started. I said, I'd like to talk to you if you can, I called your soul in, and he came, and I did a video, and I wrote about it. But in that process, in that whole thing, I had a lucid dream. And again, I was shown, first of all, I was shown these circles of 8 that were in the ethers, us in the ethers, directing equilibrium, send and receive energy to certain people, that the group was focusing on the earth plane. And then I went through this lucid dream, come out of it, and he reappeared, and some things happened. But what had happened in the physical linear timeline is that he then said to Kimberly, I'd like to go ahead and let's do a circle of 8. So in that moment, I knew just intuitively, okay, a couple of things. One, he's in the game. And 2, let's embody this. So we did a private one. Now, in the process of that, one of his friends said, hey, can we do this? Because I did it real time. As soon as I got it, I did a video. Then I got another feedback. I did another video with my phone, and it was all in flow. And then a friend of his says, can we do it publicly? So we do it public. We're going to do it publicly. I have a show with Hung Nguyen, our sister, an hour before. And she came in with some intel. And it's all just like this. Hey, I had this vision. She didn't even go to Soulogy Fest. She said, we were at Soulogy Fest. You, Franco, and Jason were in the middle of the sweat lodge. We were all around you. And there was this whole element of equilibrium in sending and receiving. So it wasn't like, let's all send healing to Franco, and depleting our energy and overgiving. It was about the overgiving and overtakers equalizing in the equilibrium of giving and receiving. And that was really the big message. So for me, it was almost like I was shown in the ethers 2 days after the Soulogy Fest. And then I actually was part of a collaboration that actually implemented it. Almost 500 people were on that live, not even counting replays. So that vortex was there of this energy that I guess I got a heads up on, and it was actually happening. And I'm thinking, and I still don't get it all, but I'm just like going, okay, you mentioned that old paradigm, if you give to receive, which reeks of codependency and even toxicity in relationships or connections, versus this equilibrium of giving and receiving. Is that a reality now?
So both realities exist. And the validation world is when we seek something outside of ourselves and we shut down from receiving. And instead of giving to receive or receiving to give, or I get confused in that, I like to express it as receiving to share.
Receiving to share.
Because when I receive, I have something to share. And
that's right.
Giving depletes us on all levels. And transforming
Sharing
the giving reality to our shareability is really interesting, because when you were talking about Franco and all of that, I saw the harmonics of the heart.
Yeah.
Which are the harmonics of health.
Yeah.
Because our electromagnetism and our heart itself, and I think we've discussed this before, when they take the electrocardiogram of the heart, and the heart has harmonics, which means it has resonance, it has vibration, and there's sounds within that resonance. Then you have a healthy immune system.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't have harmonics, you have a compromised immune system or autoimmune disease.
I got you.
So there's 5 specific areas that affect the harmonics of how the heart aligns its care.
Right. 5.
Mm-hmm. In your inner field, you have the number 7, and then the outer field, add 5 to that, and you have that magical number 12. So what misaligns the heart the most? And my first one would be self-punishment.
Self-punishment.
Self-punishment misaligns the harmonics of the heart. And then getting pissed off at things, integrity, basing on what I do instead of my presence or my feeling. And then do I face my problems or run away from them? And then do I feel now powerless? And then now do I decide to protect and condense my field and make myself smaller?
Sharing is sending and receiving merged. Like sharing, the way you brought it up, it feels like sending and receiving in one word. We're sharing.
Yeah, nature itself is a shareable reality, or a shareable wave, as it's termed in science. And it's a wave or a vibration that adds and subtracts at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Reminds me of when you see a whale, a big giant whale, and there's all those fish feeding on it, the symbiosis of it.
Right. And they serve a purpose to the well, and a functionality of cleaning part of the well, I'm sure.
Yeah. And the well, yeah, it's a sharing frequency. So much of this stuff doesn't have a word now. And like even in the conversation with Taino, that whole, it's an awareness, right? Like that addition, subtraction, and that's not even the right, I know that's not the right word. I'm just saying it just is. Like it's there, right? I mean, it's just the way it is, right?
Awareness is a straight line that makes a circle.
There you go.
And when they describe what your field is, they describe it as having two parts. And when we were in school, they taught us how to draw a straight line. Imagine here's our validation on one side and the ways we have become concerned and abandoned the self. And the awareness of that action itself is only coupled with the ability to put ourselves first and receive and become shareable. And without it, we really wouldn't be able to appreciate it.
It's good stuff. It's getting quieter too, isn't it?
You know, when you collapse charge, there's one energy that meets the story. What do you think it is?
Silence.
Yes. And that's why meditation and yoga doesn't create the same experience. Because we can get quiet in the mind, but when we collapse charge, we collapse the structures of unfulfillment. We collapse the structures of concern. And silence is the Divine Mother's energy. It is the zero. It is everywhere. It makes up 97% of everything. And it makes the space for us to receive. And I think this year I've really discovered that when there's not enough space to receive, then what is not received is not even in our awareness.
When there's not enough space to receive, there's no awareness that you haven't received.
Yes, because the story takes up all the bandwidth.
Yeah, the trauma.
The trauma. Absolutely.
So like he was saying, you can't hear. Well, in this case, he was saying you can't hear the body, and obviously he's not just talking about the physical body. But I guess you could rephrase it, because 97% of the body is the mother, based on what you're saying, right? Like if you look at the atomic, it's 97 or 99% empty space, which is the mother. So you can't hear the mother if you're focused on the story / trauma and even symptomatic to those 5 things that you were talking about.
And all of that tilts your awareness to one hemisphere of your brain or the other.
Yeah.
And when those magnetics tilt, it creates the wobble.
The wobble.
And the wobble itself is like the planetary wobble. Think of the planet Earth 11,500 years ago. She had a big cataclysm, and she moved from having a vertical axis where we were hunter-gatherers and didn't grow anything because everything was in fruit already. Because when your axis of your field or the axis of a planet is vertical, the sun or the light hits it evenly. And the tropical zone is a lot bigger. When it tilts, it creates the seasons. And it's symbolic of our emotional path, that all validation, we have to live in the seasons of the validation. Quite simply, if I seek my worth outside of myself, I may shut down from receiving my worth. And then all of the other chapters, receiving my value, receiving, now I'm suffering, now I'm concerned, now I'm dishonest with the self. Now I doubt the self, and now I feel abandoned by the self. And then moving into the outer field, now we're going to punish the self. Now we're going to get pissed off. It's not happened the way we want it to. We're going to run away from those problems and create power struggles. And then we're literally going to come into a false sense of power and can try to control the outcome to everything and use it a way to validate this idea that we must protect ourselves instead of share who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what Taino said last time and this time too, or really the last time. He says, you know, because he was just coming out. I'm coming on your show. Like I said, hey, anybody want to come on and tell their story? I'm coming on your show. He's I didn't want to do it, but I got to do it. And he says, man, I'm 3 months, first 3 months of 2021, I'm in another dark night of the soul. So I'm fresh meat, baby, you know. And he says, we're trying to, you know, be human, and we don't know what human is. And then I kind of reviewed it on that last show. I said, yeah, we're impasse. We went out into the world. And we're like, oh my God, I can't handle this. You know, I'm getting everything. I'm going to my cave. And the third thing that he had said was in that show was, and now we got to go out, right? Like that's the shareability that you're talking about. We're not going to be able to run from oneness. Oneness is walking out without impediment, like the free souls that we are, right? I mean, it's you can't, you know what I mean? I mean, it's like you don't have the full potential if you're guarded. And like you're talking about closing down, protection. And I love what you said. I never heard this. So the seasons are the wobble. The seasons are symptomatic, characteristic of the wobble. There are no seasons.
Just
in the alignment, the true vertical alignment. Wow.
Yeah, if you look historically, they will say that we were hunter-gatherers up until 11,500 years ago. And, you know, what happened? You know, why did we decide to create agriculture? And I think I read that book many years ago. It's called Catastrophobia by Barbara Hand-Clow. And she describes in that book that one of the oldest pictures of one of the oldest pharaohs in Egypt is there's a column, and he's standing in front of this column's in front of him, and it's vertical. And then he's depicted holding another column tilted 23.5 degrees. And so the Egyptians lived through that shift. They lived through the shift.
So is the Earth axis tilted 23.5 degrees?
Absolutely.
Okay,
so it was tilted 23.5 degrees for a very long time over the last 11,500 years. I'm pretty sure that's correcting itself now.
Okay, I got you. Now, hang on, let me go back. Okay, so the Egyptians
Mhm.
were by some means or another aware, and not only were they aware, they actually lived through the vertical to the tilted. And that jumps out at me because I remember Morgan pulling down a channel. It had to be, 10, 12 months ago. And I wouldn't remember it. Stuck with me, I guess, maybe for this moment and otherwise. But I remember in the channel, it was the Egyptian energy that came in. And it was like, almost like they were handing it off to us being all of us. But, we took it as, I think what they said through was that we took it as far as we could. And now you'll take it from here. So this resonates to me, what you're saying.
I think our magnetism is what is uber important. And emotionally, we don't live magnetically. And what I mean by that is that to live magnetically, you must breathe. And our breath is the shareable wave that we all share with one another. And we all have to breathe to stay here. But emotionally, what most people are doing is protecting themselves and then having to defend themselves all the time. I call it a negative charge. And a positive charge is where they have to give all this energy now and invest in things. And since the law of sympathetic vibration, and I'm sitting here in the gong room, my mic should pick it up. Can you hear the gong speak when I snap my fingers?
I turned my mic off. Do it again. Yes, I did hear it.
Yeah. So the law of sympathetic vibration says like frequency attracts like frequency. And the physics of that. So if I protect myself, then I keep attracting this reality, this negative charge that I must protect. If I keep depleting myself, I keep telling myself that I have to keep doing this because I keep attracting these situations.
Okay.
I feel like I have to give more than I receive. And so I think when we talked before, we talked about this big swing between no boundaries to all the boundaries, which we call victimhood and entitlement. And
right.
This is where the human has been stuck swinging back and forth on the pendulum. And there's a whole 180 degrees beyond this pain story that is the path of humility itself. And we're all the victim. We're all entitled. And our choice is to become humble. And without that humility, then we live in the story of that victimhood or entitlement, or both, because we really have both. I think you and I talked about the petty tyrant a lot last time, and the part of ourself that tells us that we can't do it, and also the people that show up in our life and decide that we're to be controlled.
Yeah.
And in the Toltec traditions, they teach us that a petty tyrant is needed for you to come into your energy,
into your power.
Yes, into your awareness.
A petty tyrant comes into your field, to catalyze you to
as a gift.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because without that energy, what are we going to use to shift? And I think available energy is something I'm really into now, and I'm always asking the question, where is the available energy? Do I have the available?
What does that mean? You're within yourself. Like, where's the energy that I haven't found within myself? Where's the power that I haven't found within myself?
Absolutely.
So are you approaching it? let's say the not to make any connotations. I'm just trying to make a point. So let's say that if I'm looking for the available energy, I'm familiar with looking for the shadow.
Mhm.
Are you saying you're looking at it in a different way?
Um, Not necessarily. Let's explore it a little bit.
Okay.
For example, any task that comes before, whatever it may be, to hold space or to develop awareness, where does that energy come from? When we do any task in life and we go to do that task and then we try to do it and we assume that all the energy is going to be there, and then we show up and it's not. We show up and there's all of these obstacles that come up. Um, I think that we assume that that energy is going to be available because we projected the outcome. And what I found, especially in holding that space you're talking about of it being shareable and it pulsing, is that when you hold the intent of that space, the people that cannot hold that space can't show up in it.
Repeat that.
So
when you hold the energy of that space being what?
Shareability.
Shareability.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's shareability is what I was previously identifying as the equilibrium of sending, receiving, equilibrium of giving and taking.
Right. Which I would prefer the taking part to be receiving and sharing.
Yeah. Receiving and sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because the take comes in when we think that we deserve something, and the entitlement comes in.
Yeah. No, I get that. I'm just speaking in terms of like over giving and overtaking, as in people can relate to that. But you're right. That can quickly be shelved. Right. So receiving and sharing. And that goes to what you had pointed out one time when I was there, which is, what was the question? Or we were talking like, what is a download? And it was, a download is immediately shareable, which lends to that equilibrium, that instantaneous 0 point of a paradox. Right. I'm giving, but I'm receiving. I'm sharing, receiving and sharing.
Yeah, I think the basic physics are that I can only share what is received.
I can only share what is received.
It's kind of like nature. The tree can only share the fruit from the water, temperature, and moisture that is received, that creates the right environment for that fruit to be shared.
So in a physical sense and otherwise, the axis is moving towards the perfect alignment of the vertical.
Absolutely. Do you live from what you are concerned about, or do you live from what you care about?
Mm-hmm. Do you live from the story and the trauma, or from the heart?
Absolutely. And notice they're related. Without knowing the story and the trauma, how do you appreciate the clarity of what real care is?
By knowing what it's not.
Absolutely. And without that duality, you don't see the full circle. And as the human, what we do is swing back and forth on that pendulum.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my teachers, Bobby Fomi, he would always say, Tabo, the swing of the pendulum to the right is the equal and opposite distance to the swing of the pendulum to the left.
That's the hero's journey. I've always said, you go 100 degrees below the line, you can now go 100 degrees above the line, but that's really not the point. The point is the middle, right? I mean, the point is that no charge, right? Which is not just a cliche. It's actually, from what I'm getting from you, what is creating in that 0 point paradox, what is creating the axis coming into perfect vertical alignment. It's like the chicken and the egg.
Yet without the awareness field, the two opposite frequency, because when two opposite frequencies come together in the same space, it changes the gravity. It shapes the lower frequency. And so, say, for example, I'm living in my fear of not having security. And everything is a struggle. And I look for everything as this idea that this now is going to give me safety.
Right.
And also notice that failure comes into that, and that fear and failure are the same energy. And so what is the duality of that will shape the lower frequency of that energy if it's held in the same space? Not from one side to the other, but in their totality.
So what you're describing, this is fascinating. What you're describing, let me go back. In the example of security, that was what it was, is being fixated or believing that this or that will bring me the security it will never fulfill. Okay. It's like an addiction, a pattern of addiction. I need to get high again. And you're there for a second and then it wears down and then you go back again. And anyone that's had any hardcore interaction with drug addiction or sex addiction, and I can speak to that. You always got to get more every time. You can't just have a shot. Now you got to have 2 and then 3 and then 5, you always got to go higher. And of course, the outcome is like a premature ejaculation. It's always the same space when you're over. It's just like, what?
Well, if we take love itself and meet the fear, then that love shapes the lower frequency, and the fear cannot hold the same space and charge that it tilted our field out of alignment with. So if I understand that the fear of not having security is to truly teach me that the love inside of myself is the only security that I will ever have, and that it is also my success.
And this speaks to volumes to surrendering to what you might call it attachment, surrendering from attachment to non-attachment. And actually in that surrenderance, having never lost what you were detaching from and actually getting it back in an expanded manner.
With definitely more awareness. See, awareness is this thing that cannot be given, can only be developed. And what I do now with my clients is I always tell them when they walk in the door, I'm not here to teach you a damn thing. I'm here to trick you into something.
And keep going.
Well, and from there to trick them into the awareness of what we talked about earlier, that their story is only met with one thing. And if I sit there and said, your story's met with silence, they would think I want them to shut up and stop talking. And that's not what I mean. And that awareness of silence itself,
I got you,
is a byproduct of the collapsing of the story.
I got you. So whether it be, this is because of my exposure to Morgan Lee, because whether you're observing the silence from all the senses or becoming the silence, it's still the silence, right? I mean, so your point is to say what, if you said what you don't say when they come in, because they would stop speaking. It's the contrary. You're tricking them by letting them speak as you're silent until, like a tuning fork, they become silent. And again, we're speaking far beyond just the literal. their awareness kicks in of the silence, and then there's the real info, the real awareness begins. This is cool.
It's kind of like we're talking about, how do we organize things? And organization itself is gravity.
Okay.
And so if I'm self-organized, I can make my own gravity. If I'm unorganized, then gravity feels dense and heavy, and the feelings feel dense and heavy.
That speaks to me too. You know, I share a lot of memes every day, and I came across one a few days ago, and it was, you know how you'll hear people say your office or your house is a reflection of the inside of you. Well, this meme, in that trickster kind of way, was saying not necessarily. But if you organize the inside, the outside will be. Rather than organize the outside thinking that you are, kind of thing. Kind of a shamanic double entendre mind fuck.
Well, can you do to be?
Can you do to be? No.
No. And notice everybody's still trying.
Yeah.
And I call those validation patterns. There's 144 of them.
144.
144 combinations of how we fuck ourselves over.
Can you do to be? I remember 10 years ago, those 2 years on the streets, I heard every day, don't think, just be. Don't think, just be. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? But I get that at a higher level now. So can you do to be? No, you can't.
You know, we live in a vibrational world, is why we can't do to be. And our eyes tell us that there's separation in between things, but vibrationally, there is none of that. And if you can find the vibration, that's what the universe hears.
Yeah.
The universe doesn't hear what you think or do, it hears how you feel.
Yeah.
And
wow.
It doesn't just hear it, it responds to it.
Yeah, that speaks loud to the energies of individual and collective awareness and the evolution of it over the last year and a half or almost 2 years now, right? And that is the whole structure of doing is kind of fading away, like the 9 to 5. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about this that does something similar to what I do, the scheduling. You know, like it just isn't working like it used to work, right? It's I guess a sign or a symptom of the progress that we're making, the space that we're gaining from 23 degrees off to the perfect alignment of the vertical axis.
Yeah, I don't really think we would be coming to this awareness if the mother, and this planet, wasn't aligning herself.
Yeah. And in some way, it's the chicken and the egg, isn't it? In some way, is it happening because of us? Is it happening for us? Or in that paradox 0 point field, it's happening at the same time? And if you're trying to think of how it works, you're doing and not being. It's like this. Yeah.
It is us and we are it.
Yeah.
And I think awareness is what we're really talking about. And I heard you talk about that earlier in the previous interview. And, you know, if we don't have a conversation about what awareness actually is,
right,
then, and really the science of awareness and the scalar wave itself is how our brain operates. We are scalar, and that means that opposite frequencies create the totality of our experience. So If I want to understand myself, then I must look at all of my judgments. I must look at all of my self-judgments, the judgments of others, to have the understanding and forgiveness for myself to understand those judgments.
And in the spirit of what you just said, I am it, it is me. When we do that, look at the judgments, as we gain awareness as a result of it, there's a simultaneous alchemic effect. It is me. I am it, or however that went. With I'm talking about with the boots on the ground, the human interactions, the personal, interpersonal relationships.
Well, when we become self-aware, does it change the gravity of things? Does it change the gravity of our victim story?
Yes.
Absolutely. And the scalar is everywhere. We are getting much more ready to have a conscious of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you took the 6-pointed star right now and looked at that organization. So if we take the 12-pointed star and we divide it in half, we have the 6-pointed star and we have 6 scalar waves. So in all the totality of sound and resonance and vibration, we're dividing it by 2. And now I have the witness, I have the observer to observe the charge, to observe the wobble. And
observe the wobble.
And to become integrated, we must look at all 6 of our major wobbles. I'm pretty sure we call those our feelings.
We're talking anger?
Well, we're talking, how do I resist things and how do I accept things?
Right.
How do I judge things and how do I forgive and create understanding within myself? How do I try to control the outcome and how do I trust myself?
Yeah.
How do I face my fears and know the love that I am?
Yeah.
How do I face my sorrow and abandonment of self to know the joy and that connection is built on love and the foundation of love itself? And then to know my pain is to know what it is to feel good.
That's right. Can you be by doing? Can you do and be? No. So
many people want to arrive, you know?
What's that?
They want to arrive.
Yeah.
I'm going to arrive and then everything's going to change and be different.
Right.
The Toltecs call it that a warrior must overcome clarity. Because you can always get clearer. And clarity is an infinite journey, and all of the suffering that you experience affords you the ability to know the clarity that you have in this moment.
Clarity that parallels the expansion of awareness. So
pretty sure you cut out. I can't hear you now for some reason.
I was going to say clarity clarity that parallels that expansion of awareness. But I see what you're saying. Like, if I say I have full clarity, then I'm kicking myself in the ass. I'm gaining clarity. I have more clarity than I did yesterday.
Right.
I have a desire to, there's so much locked into this, like this whole awareness thing. Like, even in terms of personal relationship with myself and personal relationship with others, I can approach it from that awareness, my awareness, the being, right? I mean, it's not like a script. It's not like step 1, step 2, step 3. It's kind of like the Jesus thing. He's reflecting back to you what you are, and masters.
I think that what I've really come to asking, I'm really interested in the question, how do people create harmony in their life?
How do people create harmony?
And I've gotten a lot of interesting answers, and a lot of it is this idea that they're going to be balanced. If I balance things, then I have harmony. And I keep hearing that over and over again.
If I balance things, then I'll have harmony.
Which I don't really relate to, because as a warrior, I know harmony comes through conflict. And that if I face the conflict, I create harmony from the situation. If I avoid it or run away, I create no harmony.
Some sense, because that's kind of like what Taino and I were talking about with pain, or what Michael Mejia and I talk about with pain when we have conversations. And the pain is my friend. The anger, the resentments, that's all something in a different category. That's all part of that upside down matrix. But the pain is the conflict. It's running from it that creates all these subcultures over here. If I hang in there as a love I am, it's like taking a shot, taking a jab. Yeah, I'm not talking about the jab. I'm talking about just like as a kid, you go to the doctor and you see the needle come out. It's the fear of it. It's not the actual microsecond of puncture.
Right.
Because once it's, how many times have we done that? Metaphorically speaking, you take the shot and boom, it's, oh, is that all it was? Right.
Right.
And then hey, let's do it. I remember when I was in college in East Texas, Nacogdoches, we found a swimming hole the size of a football field that was 5 feet deep in its entirety. It was a big rectangle. And so we get over there, and I'm sure we were up in smoke the whole way over there, and we see this giant tree with a rope. And so there must have been 20 of us. So I just looked at it and said, I'm going. And I did it because I did it first because it was just my way of getting past the fear. Once I start climbing the tree in front of all 20 of my brothers, 19 years old, I don't have time to think about everybody looking at me. All I have time to do is get up, grab the rope, jump out, and drop 40 feet or whatever it was. So I did. And I had a perfect landing. And everybody was like, whoa, Medina, wow. So what did I do? I decide now that I'm going to be Billy Badass, and I'm going to go back up the tree to show them how to do it again. Only this time, the entire way up the tree, I'm in fear. And what happens? I jump out, I constricted, and I end up falling 40 feet flat on my back, split my shorts in half, and it sounded like a cannon.
Oh. Right?
So to your point, perfect example. Well, actually more than to your multi-points, but I mean, face the conflict, face the fear as the love you are, is what I'm hearing from you. And all these subculture, sub-personalities, programs over here, anger, fear, jealousy, envy, sadness, prolonged sadness, they're not players anymore.
No, they become my teachers.
Signal fire. Like flares.
Yeah, I always say that if you imagine inviting those feelings in to sit down like you would invite a friend to dinner.
Yeah.
And really looking at it, because if you don't, how do you know what you care about?
True. Why am I angry? Who am I angry with?
Mm.
Why am I angry with that person? Why am I envious? Who am I envious of and why? Like, I get it. You're actually finding out about yourself, right?
Yeah, who betrayed me?
Who
People tell me
betrayed me?
all the time other people betrayed them, and I tell them that's bullshit. Because self-betrayal, when we betray the self, then we betray everybody else. And then betraying everybody else becomes so easy once we betray the self.
Mm. And we attract that which like begets like as well. And the story gets, it's still, yeah. And I think of the Maya Angelou's famous quote, as this is put on the table, you know, what is it? You don't know till you know,
Mm.
but when you know, like do better. When you know better, do better, basically. And so, in other words, it's like, let's not beat ourselves up anymore, because this isn't a painless path. But it brings in a field of gravity that's more in line and more in line and more in line of new creation, right? I mean, what's your thoughts on creation? Like, what's your, people talk about manifestation. I'm done with that. But creation, like, I'm made in the image. The universe never stops, right? So that means that as a fractal, I can create new things based on what I know of the universe, or whatever however you want to put it. But what are your thoughts on creation and how we create?
Co-creation happens from receiving.
Co-creation
To
happens
co-create.
from receiving, open to receiving.
Yes, and then you have something to share, so there's actually something to co-create.
I got you.
And notice this idea of manifestation and the giving take and all of that. This is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
It's what you said at the top of the show. It's just a different content, different symbology, doing something in expectation of receiving something. That's when I read The Secret, that's what I got. I'm like, no. I'm not, if there's no grind in this, whatever it is that I was chasing, I knew there was no grind in it. Not that I had it mastered, but.
Can you give without expectation?
So man, are you listening to this? There's no mistakes here. Can you hear what's going on over here? It's like massive thunderbolts. And yeah, I'm gonna have to go pull my car in the back cave here in a little bit. My car leaks.
Okay, whoa.
Yeah, no, it's big time over here.
You say, like, I'm to the king.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you can give without it, so you could actually approach it from either way, in terms of how do I receive and how do I give? Because if you can align with one, the others will be aligned, right? I mean, now if just hear me out, because I don't know if I'm right. I'm just throwing this out there. If I can give without expectation, truly, then is the other's the same thing? I mean, is it the same, the sharing? I'm sorry. If I can share.
Yes.
Right. It's like the infinity sign.
Notice when you share something, there is no expectation because you already received it.
True. It's in the sharing.
And I do ask that a lot to people. Can you actually give without having some type of expectation? And they tell me, yeah. And then I look at their unconscious, the way they resist or judge things or try to control the outcome. And it betrays this idea that you can, because there's so much in this idea of investment and the expectation of return. We were all taught that. And we were taught that that's how everything works. And
Wow, what a program that is.
yeah, there's no physics that backs that program up in any way.
No, in fact, there's the physics backs up the magic, and money. I mean, this has been part of my journey, this whole 5D commerce that I speak of. And I actually experienced it yesterday. Perfect example. I got through $300 in the Soulogy account, right? Something came up. I paid it forward. $100. No expectation, nothing. And I've had lots of training. I'm just not without scar tissue. Okay. But so I get it. And within minutes, first one was $5.55. Second one was $12.14. Next one was $22. Next one, and boom, 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 boom. And it kept going. That physics would back that up, right? That would be, right?
Magnetism. It's like sometimes, say you come into your office and the energy is unorganized, and you begin to organize the energy, and then everything begins to follow your intent.
Yes.
And, you know, intent is such a powerful thing and such a mystery at the same time. But we do know one thing about it. We know that energy follows intent.
Jesus Christ, man. Like Zeus just went off in the heavens over here. I wish y'all could hear this. This is crazy. Turn up the gain. That was nuts. That was nuts. I mean, that was crazy. Energy follows intent. All right, brother. See you next month.
All right.
I got some stuff to do the rest of the day. I canceled the last show, and yeah, got some alignment to pursue. Personal growth, personal co-creation, love, expansion, grace, intention, and the energy will follow, right?
Absolutely.
I love you, man.
Love you, Todd. Thank you so much.
Tell your sidekick over there I say hello, and your beautiful partner.
I will tell my lady you said hi for sure.
Right on. Take care, bro.
Peace.